那今天这个视频呢，是我找到的关于鬼相关的一个巴夏传讯。那之所以我要把这个视频翻译给大家，让大家看到，是因为我发现有很多个案非常怕鬼。我说实话，以前我也很怕就尤其是我小的时候，还没上小学吧，大概5岁我们那时候北京住四合院嘛，我的干妈他们就特别喜欢看香港的鬼片，就是什么僵尸道士的那种，所以就是我就很害怕，然后他们又要在我家看嘛，因为我家有可以放录像带，那个时候还是录像带啊，我就那个时候就很怕鬼。后来呢，就是自己也是在去香港的时候，那个时候也不懂，也挺年轻的，然后也没有觉醒，大概在24岁的时候去香港呢，我就听说去香港你一定要去的一个庙就是那个黄大仙。我那会儿也不懂他们就说黄大仙那个庙很灵的，然后你要去拜拜。我那个时候是最后一天在香港，然后我第二天就要回北京，然后我来大姨妈，我也不懂说你是大姨妈来的期间是最好不要去的，反正我就去了，去拜了。他那个有一条街就专门有算命的，然后我就还找一个人算命，然后就玩嘛，因为他们说一定要算一下嘛。然后我就发现那个人吧，就是真的是随便说我说什么他就应和我的那种，然后我觉得就是骗钱的，说实话。反正我后来对黄大仙一点好印象都没有。当天晚上我住的那个九龙的酒店，然后就撞鬼然后就有一个色鬼还搂我腰然后我就意识上我就直接伸出爪子，当时我整个人是没有睡着的，就是半睡半醒，因为我当时不是来大姨妈嘛，所以大姨妈量多的时候就晚上容易睡不着觉，我就感觉突然一个东西就扑在我身上了，然后就是搂我腰，而且是凉的，你能感觉得到，然后我就把它挠了以后就它一起来，我马上就可以呼吸，可以翻身了，给我吓着了。我不知道是我当时待的那个九龙的酒店不干净，还是真的就招了什么东西跟着我回来的，反正就是遇到过撞鬼。然后还有一次呢，就是在2018年我在西班牙出差，后来我们经过一个高速公路边的酒店，因为那个时候我们开车沿途走高速，路过一个地方，然后只有那么一个酒店，大概也就3星，如果在美国的话算 motel。 然后我们就住在那个酒店里面，晚上我就看见一个木乃伊爬我的床，他要爬我的床，我老公就睡我边上，然后我就想我靠，居然有木乃伊。我那个时候又是醒着的，特别神，那个时候我还没有灵性觉醒，然后我就看到一个木乃伊，他要爬上了，然后紧接着就是在我左手边有一个女巫师，她的手直接就咵一伸，就一个金球能量球就一直在投那个木乃伊身上，然后那木乃伊就起不来，就他老想起来，然后他就起不来。我当时都觉得哇，就这么壮观的一个场面，我老公是不知道的，然后就我一个人看得见，我就觉得这简直是太离谱了我就吓着了。所以后来就是有一个人，当时他是可以跟鬼魂沟通的，然后我就找他问他怎么办，然后他就大概告诉我一下怎么处理就好了，反正之后我就没再遇到。后来事隔多少年之后呢，我有一次做那个前世回溯催眠，我就特别想知道那个女巫是谁，他们就问我，就做前世回溯催眠，就说你想催眠什么？我说我想看看女巫那一世然后结果就好像跟他有关系吗？好像也不一定哈。有，告我说有是吧？是他，还真的是他。所以就是那个女巫当时是平行时空的我来救我的，所以那个女巫我当时还想谁呀？国外谁来帮我呀？居然是我自己把那个木乃伊打下去了。所以后来我就是之前也是对鬼比较怕。后来等到自己，就像我后来给大家做的那个视频，就是我第一次去做灵魂摆渡的时候遇到了地藏王菩萨，我从那个时候开始不再怕鬼了。 也知道怎么样去跟他们沟通，因为我发现他们其实跟人格真的就很像，所以我做的那一期视频是帮助大家对鬼有一个初步的理解，包括我又看了若文黄他对于鬼的这个研究，我也给大家在那个视频里提到过，我就从那个时候我就不再畏惧鬼了，因为其实从鬼的角度来看我们还觉得我们怪呢，我们跟他唯一的区别就是我们有肉身，他们没有。然后这一回看到巴夏在提到鬼以及鬼如何影响到我们的，我觉得他又提供了一个不同的视角。所以如果你到现在依然很害怕鬼的话，我想先说就是你要知道啊，鬼它其实也是能量意识体，我们也是能量意识体，我们唯一的区别就是你有肉身，他没有。那至于为什么有的时候你撞鬼然后他会害你，这个很多时候是跟我们的 trauma 有关，的创伤有关，包括你接触的人他可能背后的能量体也不太好。所以在这个部分，我当时看 Till Swan 8年前的视频，他在讲就说sell your soul to the demon， 就是说你把你的灵魂卖给了恶魔吗？然后他就特别讲了，就是说这种恶魔能量体的意识形态是怎么出现的。这个其实在我之前的视频我也提到过，我发现就是还是共鸣的，就是人类很多时候对于这种未知的能量体啊，他不太懂，他很恐惧，所以他就不断的投射这样的能量出来。包括我在讲巴厘岛的那个欧狗的时候，我就在讲，比如说如果一个宗教体系人们都认为就是有这样的鬼，而且这样的鬼他就会做出这样的事情的时候，集体的意识会产生一个能量团，哪怕我清理掉了，但是这个集体意识它依然会投射出来这么一个能量团，然后这个能量团一旦多了以后，它就会有自己的意识，然后它还会怎么样，就像你投射的那些信念一样，它就会做出那样的事情。所以很多那个所谓的鬼是这样子出来的你要知道是我们投射出来的。所以首先我们要对鬼祛魅，然后还有就是来听听巴夏怎么说你与鬼的接触是怎样的，然后希望看到这些视频以后给大家一个更开放性的视角，让你从此以后不再害怕鬼。那另一方面就是如果你害怕鬼的话，我相信应该是你生活中有些人是让你比较恐惧的，让你觉得是很无力的。因为我们撞鬼的时候，第一很恐惧，第二我们会觉得自己没有力量去对抗它，因为它是一个无形能量体，而你是有形的，你不知道怎么应对。那如果不知道怎么应对，去看我那个地藏王第一次超度遇到地藏王那个视频，然后同时看这期视频，了解到底是怎么回事，好吗？好，请看视频吧。
In the sense of a spirit that is capable of lowering its vibration enough to be perceived by the senses of the living, that you typically refer to as a ghost, a spirit, when it appears in your world, in your reality. The idea being that spirits who pass over, as you say, who die, who transition, may not always go all the way for a variety of reasons. Some may have unfinished business on earth. Some, because of their belief systems, may not have had a particular expectation or assumption of what they would experience in the so-called afterlife, and thus be a little bit confused about where they are. Some even may not even know they're dead and are wandering, looking for reasons why no one can hear them or see them. But now and then, either due to a lowering of their vibrational frequency, sort of similar to the idea of invisible ultraviolet light lowering its frequency to become visible as part of the visible spectrum of light, going down into violet and blue and so on and so forth. If they lower their frequency, they may become visible to those in the physical realm, or those in the physical realm may have enough sensitivity to perceive that spirit, even though it may not always be visible to everyone. But for some reason, they are still closely connected energetically to the physical realm of Earth, due to some of the reasons we have said or other reasons, and thus are still in their mind living among you, wandering among you, occupying the old houses, so on and so forth, what you typically refer to as a haunting, which doesn't in any way, shape, or form have to be malicious. Simply another person in another state, living in a place among the living. But the idea is that in seeing these beings, there is no way without communicating with them to know the reason why they may still be in what is referred to as the lower astral realm, very close to the vibration of physical reality, lowering their vibration enough to be perceived by physical beings. And this is the older and original definition of an exorcist, sort of a spirit psychologist, to communicate, find out why that being is in that state, why they're still lingering around Earth, which doesn't always have to be for a negative reason. Sometimes, when spirits cross over, and they act, in a sense, as guardians, spirit guides, for those who are still living, there may be reasons why they can learn to lower their vibration, to interact with the living in certain ways, even to the degree of appearing solid as a living physical being. This takes some skill and some practice on the part of spirits to do this, because once you are in spirit and in that high frequency vibration that is generally invisible to the living, it is actually not as natural for a spirit to go back down into the lower vibrations and become perceivable to the living, but there are those who may have reason to do so, to appear to the living in certain ways to deliver messages, or perhaps as a protector to alert living people to certain ideas, certain situations and circumstances, be it dangerous or not. So those spirits may have a high degree of need to lower their vibration to interact with the living and be perceived as living people until such time as they raise their vibration again and vanish before your eyes. And so there may be great need to do this, or they may simply have chosen to practice the ability of raising and lowering their vibration in order to interact with the living for a variety of their own reasons, or agreements they may have made with the living people with whom they interact. Now, beyond the idea of it actually being a spirit, a ghost per se, that you're interacting with, that is live in real time, as you say, there may be other effects that exist that can be interpreted as seeing a ghost. And one of them is the idea that in the fabric of space-time, everything is recorded. You might say, again, as people on your planet often name it, the Akashic records have a kind of video sort of ability to record things as well as audio or pure information. And all that information is available here and now because everything exists here and now. So again, for those that might be sensitive enough, might extend their senses far enough vibrationally to pick up on certain things that may have happened, linearly speaking, in the past, and perceive the recording, it's etched itself into the fabric of space and time, they may be seeing a recording of sorts, an echo of sorts of things that have been, or even will be, in your linear framework, and perceive that as a living ghost, even though it is simply an echo, a recording, something etched into the fabric of space-time, and is no longer actually present. These kinds of perceptions will usually appear to be repeatable. In other words, a person may say, oh yes, this place is haunted, and at midnight, every 3 days, you see this woman walking down the hallway into this room, and so on and so forth. And if that keeps repeating, it might not be what would be termed a living presence. It might actually be a recording, repeating over and over again when the conditions are right to trigger it, or when the conditions are right in a person's senses to perceive it. So a lot of things that repeat themselves that way may actually not be a living presence. It might be, but it may not be, because it could simply be etched into the fabric of space-time and repeating on a loop. Another way that people might perceive the idea of a ghost that is not a ghost, in the classic sense, is the idea of peering into parallel realities. Sometimes the so-called barriers between one reality and another will overlap, will weaken, will align vibrationally in some way, shape, or form to allow a person from your reality to actually perceive, although perhaps faintly and dimly, people in other realities. And therefore, in suddenly seeing an apparition wandering through your reality, you might perceive it or think it to be a ghost of someone who has passed over, but in fact, you are actually seeing a faint representation of a person in another reality who is just going about their business, but may seem to you to be a ghost. And they may be able to perceive you that way at that moment as well, and go back to their friends and family with tales of having seen this ghost. And they're just describing you, because again, the veils between the different realities may have weakened for some reason at that point, because these fluctuations do often happen. There are doorways and portals that open to different dimensions on a regular basis, and some of them are random, and sometimes these openings and closings can allow one in your reality to peer into other realities temporarily until they close again. And sometimes these are interpreted as spirits and ghosts when they are not, in the classic sense, such a thing. But the idea of this season is to allow yourself to open up to the potential communication that can exist between you and spirits, spirit guides, family members who may have passed on, soul family groups who may never have even incarnated. It is the ability of your senses to stretch into that realm, especially if someone close to you has died, and is encouraging you to stretch your senses to connect with them in the spirit realm. This is the perfect season and timing to allow yourself to practice this. And this will be the subject of our meditation today, to give you an opportunity to do so. So, allow yourselves during your Halloween season, while having fun, playing scary, while having fun being spooked out, while having fun imagining all sorts of strange apparitions and so on and so forth, keep in a corner of your mind the realization that this, in the vibrational cycles of Earth, is also when the veils are thin between the physical and the non-physical. Because remember, the physical is just a projection of consciousness. You yourselves, in a sense, are projections of consciousness as physical beings. So you yourselves, in a sense, are all ghosts, because your natural state is as a spirit, and you are just pretending to be in a physical, solid reality. So you are all ghosts in physical reality, which itself is a ghostly apparition of a consciousness idea that you are exploring. So in remembering that, it can amplify your ability to remember that all of these spirits are right with you and you are right with them, still in spirit with them, while dreaming that you are not. Allow yourself the opportunity to feel that and maintain that connection and increase that connection between yourself and the spirit realm, becoming more lucid and conscious about the fact that physical reality is, in a sense, just an apparition that you're playing around in. And allow yourself this opportunity, because as we do approach the idea of the window of contact and the increase in the splitting prism into different parallel versions of Earth, maintaining and increasing your connection to the spirit realm that you occupy now, right now, as your natural state, will serve you in a variety of ways that we will go into the closer we approach to the beginning of the window of open contact. And serve you with the idea of making contact, because many extraterrestrial beings are extra-dimensional beings and actually have attributes, just as our civilization does, of both physicality and spirit. And thus, the stronger you connect to the fact that you are a spirit, as you say, not so much a human having a spiritual experience, but a spirit having a human experience, you can identify with us more strongly every day and allow the idea of open contact to be a broader experience with many different kinds of beings who are not just physical extraterrestrials in the way that you think of us, but occupy many different dimensional planes, just as you do, who are simply aware of the occupation of those planes, just as you can become, and therefore blending and melding and merging the idea of physical and spirit in a way that allow you a great deal of freedom, a great deal of expression, and a great deal of being your true self and expanding what that really means in your world.